What's going on? Welcome in. The 2024 college football regular season, postseason, all of it. It's come to a close. And your national champions, the underdog, the plucky 8 seed, Ohio State Buckeyes, right? They take down Notre Dame 34-23. They get that last field goal to cover that spread for all the Ohio State backers, whoever got 8.5 or 9.5. It was really put to the test there in the second half because Ohio State went back into their shell with some of their play calling that they tended to do all season, especially in the Michigan games. And to credit to Notre Dame, they kept fighting. Obviously, some questionable calls that we'll talk about. We'll let everyone kind of start flooding in here on the live stream if you're watching on X or on YouTube. If you're listening Tuesday morning, because it's 11:15 on the East Coast, and you wanted to get to bed and you want to just listen to some live recap. Thanks for joining us on Apple and Spotify. So click the follow button, click the subscribe button right now if you're watching on YouTube, click the follow button on X, all that good stuff. Lance, 34-23, Ohio State over Notre Dame. What's your initial thoughts?
Well, the Buckeyes were the first team to win the 4-team playoff national championship. Now they're the first team to win the 12-team playoff national championship. And, really for about, I'd say, almost 3/4 of that game, it was just, Ohio State. Chip Kelly was in his bag. They were showing their embarrassment of riches of their just freak athlete skill position players that they've got all over the place. And they were literally using all of them, and including Will Howard in the run game. I mean, his legs, dude, were a huge, huge part of their success in that first half. His ability to extend plays, his ability to, get first downs on like big third down plays. And of course, like at one point, I think, didn't he start was it 13 for 13 or 14 for 14, something like that?
Yeah, it was something close to that.
Yeah, and I mean, receivers were running butt naked all over the place in that first half, so that helped. But again, he was throwing darts. But yeah, I mean, you thought that game was about to be just ugly. And judging by everybody's tweets on X and even the way the announcers were acting, I mean, dude, even the way Marcus Freeman, like at halftime, I mean, that guy is as strong and as you look to him for your beliefs and stuff all the time as a player. Like, he just never seems to be phased. Dude, he was shook at halftime when he got there to that interview, it seemed like.
And yeah, I mean, I just think, they got the game that they wanted.
Yeah.
In the first half, they shortened the clock. They took off nearly 10 minutes on the first drive. They punched Ohio State in the mouth. They went down and scored, and his defense couldn't get a stop. Like, he made them – Ohio State sustained 10 and 11 play drives in the first half. And I think he was at a loss for words with his own team, honestly. Like, they got the kind of game they wanted, and they couldn't get a stop. He said they were making mistakes on defense and everything. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, first half and then the first drive. The middle eight, everyone talked about Notre Dame's middle eight, right?
Yeah.
Everyone hates the middle eight term, all that stuff. I mean, but, I told you, I texted you when that coin toss happened. Didn't like that because Notre Dame had been winning the coin toss, deferring, getting the ball to start the second half. And they just they got whooped in the middle eight, 14-0. And honestly, when you look back on it now and look at the final score, that's a pretty big important part of the game. Everyone thinks, well, those 8 minutes aren't any more important than the other 52 minutes. Well, if you can get a score like that and get it under 30 seconds where Notre Dame just kind of ran one play, went to halftime, like you're just stealing a possession there.
Yeah, it's important. It absolutely is. And I mean, I just can't imagine Notre Dame's, again, like the way Marcus Freeman acted at halftime, like you just alluded to. The fact that they came out on that opening possession and played it was just a grown man FU type of drive right down Ohio State's throat. And I mean, I'm promising, dude, my text messages were blowing up. I mean, everybody all over the place was like, oh, okay. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
And dude, the Buckeyes just right down the field with like an 11-play drive. then they stopped Notre Dame, and then another 10-play drive. Like, just the answers that they had on those 2 drives were just incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, man, Ohio State, after that opening drive, they dominated the line of scrimmage there the rest of that first half. Like we were talking about, Notre Dame was going to play man. They switched up and tried to play zone. It's obvious that that's not what they're comfortable at doing, and they're not good at it. And they weren't. I mean, Ohio State was just finding open spots left and right, and then when they would go man, they're just too good, dude. Like, again,
Yeah.
teams don't have an embarrassment of riches like that at skill position. They just don't. And then Travion Henderson and Judkins. I mean, Henderson was pretty much, he did okay, but he was held in check for the most part. They let Judkins get loose tonight. But
explosive plays. I mean, we said they couldn't allow the explosive plays, but a 70-yard run for Judkins and a 56-yard catch at the end of the game where before that catch, Jeremiah Smith had 4 catches for 32 yards. And if you're Notre Dame defense, you got to be happy with that. Obviously, the game script, being up 31-7, and obviously we talked about it at the beginning. When they went, I mean, they just go into their shell. That's got to be so infuriating for Ohio State fans, them just going into a shell there. And then, I mean, had they kept running that offense, it's the last game of the season, they probably win this game 52-23. It's just the fact that they just, and then even at the end of the game when they wouldn't give it to Judkins or Henderson, they kept running with Will Howard.
Yep, and I think if you behind closed doors, I think if you talk to Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Jim Knowles, all of them, I think they would tell you that I personally believe it was almost borderline underestimating Notre Dame's offense at that point and overestimating your defense. That when they were up like they were, I just don't think that they thought that Notre Dame could move the ball. I think they thought that they could just sit on it, run the clock out. Our defense is too dominant right now. They can't score. They can't throw the football. So we really have nothing to worry about here. Let's just sit on it, run the clock out. And the next thing you know, you look up and it's a 8-point game. Or really, we'll back up. It's a 15-point game.
Yeah, 16-point game.
16-point game at that point. And then Ohio State finally tries to open it up again. But at that point, Notre Dame, all of a sudden, their spirits are lifted. You see that sideline over there.
Got that turnover they needed.
Yep, got the turnover. Yeah. Everything started, the ball started bouncing their way. And everything changed. But I'm with you, man. The Ohio State just still having those lulls where they just get conservative out of nowhere instead of just turning those athletes loose. Like when they do, man, this college football playoff, all 4 games, ridiculous I just don't know that we're going to see for a while a group of receivers that good across the board paired with 2 backs like that. It'll be a long time before we see that again. But we've got to do it, man. I got to ask your thoughts on, obviously, like one of the most talked about things of the night was when, it's a 2-possession game with 9.5 minutes to go, 4th and goal, and Marcus Freeman elects to kick a field goal to try to keep it at a 2-possession game. Very strange. I know hindsight's 20, but like even in that, I mean, I don't think anybody in that situation outside of Marcus Freeman felt like that the field goal was the right decision there. That just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't agree with the call. But I also think that they just don't. They didn't have faith in Riley Leonard converting a 4th and goal from the 10 against that defense. Especially, we talked ad nauseum about the number 1 red zone scoring defense. I mean, the bigger question would be calling an obvious fake punt when 4th and 1 with Leonard had been working all night.
Dude, that's a great point.
I mean,
great point. That was again that call got way overshadowed by
as telegraphed as it was. Incredible throw by Angeli, and the ball was just dropped. If he catches that, everyone's praising Freeman like that. Great fake punt call, even though we all knew it's coming. But it's like Leonard was running the ball all night. Everybody in the stadium knew he was running, and Ohio State still couldn't stop it. And it's 4th and 1. So I don't know why. I don't know why they do that.
To that point, that's one of those situations where people will bash the call and say that's a horrible call. Why you can't do that? That's dumb, stupid. The call worked. It just wasn't executed. I mean, Angeli made a good throw. He was open. He hit him. He just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked. They just didn't execute it. But I'm with you on the part of, like, if you're going to go for it, you absolutely line up and run Leonard up the middle there, you've done the whole game.
I've got a buddy who texted me and said he absolutely hated that call, but he actually liked the field goal call because it would get them to 13. The odds of them hitting two-point conversions after touchdowns wasn't great anyways. There's still 9:40 left, all timeouts. I mean, so, everybody has different thoughts on the punt, the field goal, all that stuff.
Yeah. I disagree with it, but like honestly, that's the first person I've seen or heard that actually seemed like they agreed with it. So, but like I like hearing that perspective because it's not a bad perspective there. Like you said, like the chances of you scoring on a 4th and goal from like the 10-yard line, whatever it was, against the number one red zone scoring defense in the country, getting a 2-point conversion. And then, like you said, getting another touchdown and another 2-point conversion, but still, I don't know. At that point, it's a numbers game and the clock's against you and stuff. I just don't know how you think that you were going to get enough possessions to be able to do it. The bigger question is, though, and I'm not even being funny by this or facetious by this. I mean this. Ohio State is lucky that Notre Dame just didn't go air raid.
I was getting ready to say, because Ohio State fans, you're infuriated with the second half play calling. You won the game. You won the national championship. Season's over. You don't have to deal with it for 8 months. Notre Dame fans, you're infuriated that, yes, you had a great first drive of the game, but no shots were called at all. Like, this team showed that they can throw the ball when needed in the Penn State game and in other games during the season. And I just think going into the game, you had to have known. I know you got faith in your defense. But you had to have known Ohio State's going to put up some points. We're going to have to throw the ball to put up some points and to generate some offense. And so it is a must-need situation to throw the ball in the first half even. And to not take any shots. And I mean, I think we mentioned it on one of the shows we were on our show. I don't know, but we talked about you got to take some deep shots. Igbinosun has been getting flagged all season long.
Yeah.
For penalties and everything, and he did in the second half when they finally did. And, dude, I mean, once either Steve Angeli or CJ Carr gets in there next year, like, Jaden Greathouse might be a stud.
He's a dog,
wide receiver.
He is a dog. But, like, going back to the point of going, like, Notre Dame should have thrown the ball more. I mean, again, hindsight's 20/20, but, like, in the fourth quarter of that Penn State game, they threw it all over Penn State. Second half of this game, back half the third quarter and the fourth quarter, they throw it all over Ohio State. And again, there were some, but again, that's part of it. When you're throwing the ball and you're attacking down the field against the defense, that puts pressure on them and it puts pressure on their DBs to have to cover. And you do get, that's part of football. You do get flags and you do get some pass interference calls when you're taking shots down the field and being aggressive like that. And it's interesting, man, that it's almost like, again, that they gave too much respect to Ohio State and to the Ohio State defense. Like they just didn't think that they couldn't throw the ball or something. But and then the only reason that they did is because they were forced to, and then it worked.
Yeah.
Head scratcher there that they weren't more aggressive overall in the play calling earlier on, like earlier in that game when they needed to be, and before they got too far behind.
Yeah.
It's puzzling.
Yeah.
The other part is too, dude, Notre Dame until kind of late there in that second half, the makeshift offensive line that Ohio State brought to the college football playoff, I mean, other than the Texas, against Texas, they played really well throughout this college football playoff and played really well again tonight. I mean, Howard at one point was just so comfortable back there, just stepping into whatever throws, seeing the field really well because he was allowed to see the field really well. And it really wasn't until that fourth quarter that Notre Dame was able to speed that clock up a little bit when he was in the pocket, and speed his decision making up more and not allowing him just to be super comfortable. But it's hats off to that Buckeye offensive line, man, because I'll be honest with you, I thought that was a matchup that I thought Notre Dame would exploit a little bit more in this game. like Texas did. I realized that Notre Dame's injuries this year and stuff, and like their defensive line isn't like tonight's defensive line isn't the same as what Texas brought to the game against Ohio State as far as the type of talent along the defensive front overall. Yeah. But still, I thought they would be able to exploit that matchup a little bit more, and they really didn't until late in the game.
Yeah, and last play of the game, or what was basically the last play of the game, Notre Dame had to bring the pressure on 3rd and 11. But, I mean, you got to double Jeremiah Smith, like, you know, or at least put Leonard Moore on him because he's a more physical cornerback than Christian Gray.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, Notre Dame's best cornerback has been in street clothes since Game 6, but
yeah,
they you know, they just, as soon as they saw one-on-one coverage, Howard knew exactly what he was going to do all night. And if you look at Howard's stats, like he didn't have, I mean, yeah, he was at 1 point 14 for 14 or whatever, but until that last pass, I think he had 175 yards passing. So he didn't do anything spectacular, but he didn't make any stupid plays at all.
No, man, he was better than being just a game manager, but he managed the game really well. He was extremely accurate, extremely efficient, which is pretty much what he had done the entire year.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the Michigan and the Oregon games, they lost the turnover battle in those games. And in this game too, I mean, Buckeyes had one. Notre Dame, did they have a turnover, Notre Dame?
No.
Yeah, so Ohio State had the one turnover.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they had such a lead at the point, it didn't really hurt them that bad, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Howard was efficient. He was accurate. He was making good decisions. He had receivers running wide open, and he was hitting them, and he made some really good throws on top of that. But yeah, that deep ball there to Jeremiah Smith, the first down and second down play calls. Like I saw Twitter blowing up too. Like, what is Ohio State doing? You've got Judkins and Henderson and Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka and Tate and Ennis and G. Scott. And here we are running parallel to the line of scrimmage on slow developing QB power plays with Will Howard on first and second down with the game on the line.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. And then they eliminated all of that.
Yeah.
With a deep ball shot to the guy that could be playing on NFL Championship Sunday.
Like I said, they should have been doing that all game.
Yeah, agreed, man. They could have done that whenever they wanted to. If they would have just dropped back and just slung it to those receivers, they'd have been open all night long, just like they were.
Yeah.
But dude, Christian Gray on that play, like I know he's the best receiver in the country. What do you do?
But like it's just basic, you know, he ran.
There was no, I'll be honest with you. Like, I know this is like, people say this kind of stuff all the time, you know, like armchair coordinators and people that sit at home acting like I could cover that guy. Dude, I think there's a lot of people on this planet that could have done about what he did on that play.
Yeah.
Just basically run along 5 yards behind him or beside him, let him do what he wants and let him catch it and just fall down.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ryan Day gets the national championship, bro.
Did the 12-team playoff save Ryan Day's job?
Yeah, like as crazy as that sounds, like here's what's funny. Here's what's funny about this, man. I'm gonna go there. There are so many people now that we weren't the ones sitting there saying it that Ryan Day should lose his job, but the people that were saying that he should lose his job, those people will act like they never said it today, and they'll act like the people that did say it, they'll act like that they were crazy the whole time. I can't believe those people thought that. Like, that's just crazy. That's just stupid. There were so many people thinking that and saying that. And, I mean, yeah, we talked about it because obviously it was being talked about a ton. But
yeah, I mean, it was right after the game. We said, I don't know how you come back from this other than winning a national championship.
Right, and he goes and wins a national championship. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, again, there's going to be those that we'll never forgive him for that or whatever. But I think the masses overall.
If there's an Ohio State fan out there that's saying I would trade this in right now to beat Michigan this year, they're idiots.
Yeah, they are. I was going to say they're out there. You've seen our posts, bro.
I have, and they are
reels
stupid. Sorry, no offense to everybody, but you're stupid.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, a lot of our reels that we've posted. Dude, some of the Buckeye fans that have been coming on there, whoo, goodness. Yeah, they don't seem to care at all about this run. But anyway, moving beyond that, I I mean, I know this is the first year of the 12-team playoff, so obviously it's the first chance that a team has had to make a run like this through a gauntlet of a playoff bracket. But like, dude, I don't know if we'll see as dominant. I mean, maybe we will. I'm being prisoner of the moment here, probably. But I'm just not sure that we'll see as dominant of a 4-game stretch as this team just had. And as far as the teams that they played. But again, I know next year there's going to be teams that are going to have the opportunity to be able to do it. But we said this before the season started. I know Josh Pate said the same thing. And there's probably a few others that said it too. But this 12-team playoff, for people thinking that it allowed more teams chances to win a national championship. No, it allows more teams chances to make the playoff. What it allows for is the teams like Ohio State this year, who has the most talent. It gives them more mulligans if they mess up in the regular season to rectify it in the college football playoff, to do exactly what Ohio State just did. I'll stick with Ohio State. If you think back to the Zeke Elliott team, they got upset by Michigan State and didn't make the 4-team playoff years ago. That was the most talented team in the country coming off their national championship run. I think that was like 2015, 2016, something like that. If that 12-team playoff was around, that Ohio State team probably wins it all then. Georgia last year, in a 12-team playoff format, they would have had a great chance to win a national championship last year. Alabama with Bryce Young and Will Anderson that ended up being the 5 seed and missing the 4-team playoff. Those are the type of teams that we're talking about that has just so much talent, but they may stub their toe in the regular season for whatever reason. In a 14 playoff era, they would have been gone. They would have been out. But in a 12-team playoff, you allow Ohio State what'd you call it? The whatever, 8 seed, 9 seed, what'd you call them?
The plucky underdog 8 seed.
The plucky underdog 8 seed Buckeyes, the most talented team in the country. They get a chance to become the 8 seed and end up winning it all.
Yeah. And to your point, I don't know if we ever see a team in this era of college football that's this talented ever again. I mean, I kind of said it last year where I thought that Michigan team would do a run like that, that they would just kind of be one of the last great teams. Obviously, Ohio State, you may not think they're great because they lost 2 games this year, but they were undoubtedly the most talented team all year.
Yeah,
they are losing a ton on this team. They're losing their entire defense other than Caleb Downs. They're losing their quarterback. They're going to lose their running backs. They're going to lose all of their receivers except for Jeremiah Smith. So, well, we'll see just how good of a coach Ryan Day is next year, I guess.
Yeah, and if you want to know how good this Buckeye team really was, just wait till April when the NFL draft rolls around. Good Lord, the amount of names is going to be called from this team.
Yeah.
But all right, so what does this national championship mean for Ryan Day? I want to preface this. We already talked about it as far as Ohio State. They're already one of the most elite programs, most consistent program in all of college football. But going forward, I mean, Ryan Day's still young, man. We talked about this. He's a young coach. He could rip off multiple national championships.
What if he loses to Michigan next year?
Is that why you were laughing? You just going to say that?
Cool.
He could. Yeah. He could. He absolutely could.
In the big house and playing in the big house. I mean,
yeah,
it's not far-fetched at all. But for now, let's let the man celebrate this one, right? I mean, he's got at least if Michigan is the gorilla, this is the monkey. He's got the monkey off his back. Obviously, I'm of the belief that this should be the gorilla. It's a bigger prize, but
yeah,
there's Ohio State fans out there that the Michigan game is all that matters. And but listen, he just won a national championship. He's a heck of a good coach. I mean, 10 losses in his time at Ohio State.
He's a great coach, man. And
the run that they just went on, the talent that he is accumulating. Obviously in high school recruiting, but just getting pieces in the portal. It's so funny too. Think about, we're kind of jumping a little ahead here, but teams like Florida State and Auburn, who Auburn, some people are pretty high on them, and they're too early top 25s. they've had almost a 2-month head start on Ohio State and Notre Dame in this new calendar of college football here. Like, there's some teams that are almost done with their winter workouts, and these two teams are just finishing up playing in Atlanta.
Yeah, man. There's quarterbacks jumping ship all over the place. There's quarterbacks getting $4 million to go hang out with their girlfriend in South Beach.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with the cultures that these two coaches have built, like they're not going to see much attrition from the portal. Ohio State's going to see something from the draft, but portal's not going to hit these teams hard. I don't think in the next 5 days when they're allowed to hit. So I mean, we'll see. Both these teams and programs will be back next year. They'll be good. I mean, Ryan Day though, yeah, he national championship at age 45, and. But yeah, like I said, man, it's never good enough in Ohio State fans' eyes.
No, he's where. So let's move on now to.
If I were him, if I were Ryan Day, if an NFL team comes calling the Raiders, you thinking about jumping?
How funny! Like I actually saw somebody tweet today say, well, if you're Ryan Day, you just stand at the podium and talk about how much you love this team and love this locker room and all that, but you don't even mention a single word about the Ohio State fans, and then. Before you even get to the locker room to say, by the way, I'm taking the Chicago Bears, whatever, whatever NFL team you want to throw out job, and what Ohio State fans would think of that, be brutal.
Yeah.
So all right, so Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, again, the resolve, the toughness, the mental toughness, all of that, all of the things that everybody talked about of this Notre Dame team all year long, and going into that fourth quarter to make the comeback that they made. I mean, I don't feel any differently about Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame than I did going into this game. Like I already thought highly of them. You and I talked about how that he has them set up for success for as long as he is the head coach for the Irish. They are set up for success for years to come. In this new NIL transfer portal era, the way he builds his team with culture, the way he builds depth with this team with culture. They don't have a lot of guys transferring out like you talked about. They have a lot of depth that they build from building up within their program, and then they go pick a few small little pieces here to mix in from the portal. I'm with you that I think that they are set up for success for years to come as long as he is the head coach there, and they're going to be competing at the highest level for championships for years to come.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up well there. It's kind of right now you feel like always a bridesmaid, never a bride right now. You get to the championship in 2012, 2013, lose, going up against fantastic team. You get to the playoff, the 14 playoff a couple times, and you go up against teams that are just way more talented than you. And then you get to the championship here and you face one of the most talented teams up there in college football history. And Notre Dame's just a program right now that, there's not a lot of 5-star talent on there, but there's a ton of 4-star talent on there. We talked about blue chip ratio before, and Bud Elliott's highlighted, like, well, you combine like the, 4 stars and the 3 stars, like it was way more than Ohio State had on their roster. Obviously, you watch the dudes who play on Ohio State, like Jeremiah Smith, like those guys they're difference makers. Like they're generational talents. And yeah, I mean, if Notre Dame gets, a little bit of better offensive line, maybe Jeremiah Love can showcase his generational talent, which I think he has. But, Freeman will be back at it. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to the NFL. He'll be recruiting. This will help their recruiting, I think. I think they showed, obviously in that second half, like you mentioned, the resolve, but they showed, they've got a lot more talent on this team, and they can hang a lot better with some of the elites, much better than they have in the past.
And I think too that like Denbrock at his age too, I'd be surprised if he goes anywhere. I think that like his last stop probably for the next few years will be at Notre Dame. Like I don't know at his age what kind of head coaching opportunities would come about.
Some guys just don't want to be head coaches.
Right. And I can't see him jumping ship to go be offensive coordinator he was already at LSU. He's been at Notre Dame before. Like he's had really good OC jobs, multiple times. So I think they're going to have good stability there as the offensive coordinator and how important he is because he is a legit one of the best in the game.
Yeah, I think it is worrisome right now for Notre Dame fans that Penn State has not made a decision on their defense coordinator. And you've got Al Golden hanging out there who graduated from Penn State, played there.
I was curious about that as well too. Really, I mean, I'm not going to, there's another defensive coordinator in this game as well that some Penn State fans I saw sharing on message boards, which again, that's message board material. That may just be.
There's definitely been some rumors of Jim Knowles heading to a school in the SEC that I've heard.
Yep. So, saw that as well. So there's been rumors. But here's the thing: when you're this good, when your defenses are this good, or when your offenses are this, whatever, and you get to this point, your coordinators, your position coaches, all of them are going to be pursued. If your assistant coaches aren't being pursued by other programs, that's probably not a good thing. I mean, I dealt with it forever as an Alabama fan where literally every single year, every coordinator that Nick Saban had would be pursued by everybody constantly. So, again, if you're Notre Dame or Ohio State and people aren't pursuing your assistant coaches, then there's problems. But, they are because these two coaching staffs are elite. So, I saw that we had a tweet come in by somebody here, Andrew Koss.
Yeah, Andrew, he was actually the winner of the Capital One Bowl Mania challenge that we did.
Hey, congrats Andrew. Congrats, man. And appreciate you tweeting in, listening in here. Honestly, I don't necessarily disagree with what he's saying here. In the Big Ten, it's not like you have a bunch of just wide open passing offenses that Ohio State has to face. They faced one all year in Oregon in the regular season. Oregon was able to exploit it in the regular season, but they weren't in the playoff. No other team that they played really had the ability to stretch the field down the field against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame exploited it a little bit there in that second half. And it was just, too little too late at that point.
Yep.
But you're right, man. It's going to be interesting from here now in the transfer portal era where these two teams – Notre Dame did hit the portal a little bit. They grabbed Devontae Smith, the DB from Alabama, grabbed a DB from my other squad right here in the background, Virginia Tech, a safety from Virginia Tech who was really good and solid. So they added two solid pieces there. But it'll be interesting to see what these two teams do here in the spring transfer portal window to try to fill some of the needs and some of the holes that they have. Who goes pro, who doesn't. And for your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, man, it'll be interesting to see what they do at the quarterback position, if it's going to be C.J. Carr season or does Angeli still have, I have no idea. What's his?
I think he's a sophomore.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Sophomore maybe, yeah.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Well.
He can go pro if he wants, but but the beauty of it is, man, we probably got 5 months to talk about all this until we really start ramping up for the 2025 season. So this is college football in 2025 now. There's no off season. This is a year-round sport now, and you can bet that Always Talking Ball will be there all off season talking about whatever we can. Any teams we can get interviews with people. We'll bring them to you. We got some of those lined up. They're going to be great. But I think that does it for us. Wrapping up the national championship game. I wanted to go on midway through the third quarter. 28-7. I was like, if this thing gets to 28 points, man.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and peel the curtain back. I had to text my boy here and be like, dude, we can't go live. Live reaction to the national championship midway through the third quarter. I think we could have if it had gone 35-7. Yeah, the pessimistic fan in Tyler was coming out in that moment. We've all been there. But I was having to be the voice of reason for him. But I ain't gonna lie, I was being nice, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is about to get out of hand." Yeah. And of course, Notre Dame ended up making it a game. Like they've. Again, all the resolve and all the stuff that Notre Dame, the toughness that they showed ended up showing up. But, I will say this. Before the season started, you're not the only one. Obviously, a lot of people did. You had Ohio State as your number one team in the country going into the year. You thought they would win it all this year. They did end up winning it all. Again, I don't think any of us thought that it would be the path that they ended up taking, but it happened. And this 12-team playoff, we'll talk more about it too later on, but it was a success, man, getting us these two teams that we had in the national championship game. I know the format wasn't the best and how they decide the teams maybe not be the best, but ended up being a great semifinals and a great finals. So looking forward to it again next year. And if you're listening right now, or for those that's going to be listening tomorrow to our reaction episode here, we appreciate you guys following along all year. It's unbelievable how much we've been able to grow this thing just in our second year of doing a podcast together. And we only went to YouTube and went live like this through video to start this season.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all of you guys tuning in and following us and subscribing. And again, we're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Follow along, subscribe. We're going to keep bringing you content even in the off season. I can promise you that, like Tyler said.
Yeah.
And we'll be back better than ever to start next college football season right here with you guys.
Yeah, man. And to finish it off, like you said, with the Ohio State pick, we spend so much time breaking this stuff down. And sometimes really all it just comes down to is who has the better players.
Yep.
And you look at that roster, and from the beginning of the season, they had better players than everybody else. And,
Yep.
you know, and we'll talk about it probably in the offseason too, that Ohio State-Michigan game in 2024 will be one of the weirdest results probably in the history of college football from what ramifications it had then and what happened 2 months later with Ohio State hoisting the trophy at the end of the year. And all I can say is next year, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, the hype around that game with the past two national champions going against each other in the big house with 5 in a row on the line.
Yep.
Whew, boy, can't wait for that.
But
yeah, echo everything Len said. Appreciate you guys tuning in with us. It's been a blast this season. And all we can say is that we'll be back sooner rather than later. We're not going to leave you guys, hanging for much longer. So we'll be back soon. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for tuning in on X, YouTube tonight for a little live reaction. We're happy we can get this out to you right after the game and on Tuesday morning. So until next time, that puts a wrap on the 2024 college football season. Congrats to the Ohio State Buckeyes for taking down the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 34-23 in the national championship game. That's it. Anything else?
Nothing else, brother.
All right, man. You guys have a good one.